Cobra Kai Season 3 dropped just a few weeks back, and this franchise is known for its big, dramatic, final battle sequences. So today I'm going to stop and rank all 8 Cobra Kai and Karte Kid final battles from the worst to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of all 8 final battle sequences. My list isn't the right list, it's just my list, and I would love to see yours. As I'm going into this, I'm being loose with my description of final battle, whether it's the tournament, a specific fight, a school fight. That's what I'm referring to, the whole sequence, and let's get started. Easily in last place is the next Karte Kid. Now, this is a bad movie. The bullies of the film are part of like this high school police force, and their teacher is encouraging these students to commit felonies. What sets off the finale of the film is this police force bungee jump in the middle of prom, and one of them gets seriously hurt. But then they're unfazed by this, and they don't get in any trouble from any of the teachers that would have been watching this. Then, while being coached by their teacher and employee of the school, blow up the movie boyfriend's car. Light it. And then 5 guys jump him. So they've committed a bunch of felonies, and Mr. Miyagi should have called the cops at this point in time. And this all leads to Hilary Swank getting in a one-on-one fight with the leader of this bad group of police force guys, where she beats him up, and then he cheats and throws mud in her eyes, and she goes full Frank Dukes from Bloodsport. And has learned how to fight while blind, even though she's only been trained for like 2 weeks. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's kind of fun to see Hilary Swank doing big, cool flippy kick things and stuff like that. But it's a bad finale. It's way too cartoonish, and it strains all credibility out of the film. Number 7, The Karte Kid Part 3. This finale tries to mimic the finale of the original film. It has all the beats, it's in the same setting, but it doesn't do any of the hard work of setting up a finale that you care about, and therefore it just rings entirely hollow. One of the strangest things about this finale is that they wrote into the script that Daniel doesn't even have to fight in the competition except in the championship, so it just goes straight to the final fight with Mike Barnes, which is a very odd choice since part of the payoff of these movies is the tournament and watching our hero progress through it. The other big problem here is that Mike Barnes is just a hired gun. He doesn't believe in anything. He's just doing this for the money, so it doesn't really matter if he's defeated. The movie doesn't set up a compelling arc for why it matters if Daniel beats this guy, other than this guy's been manipulating him, and therefore we want to see him defeated. And they want to have, once again, their big final move, but they don't really come up with another one, so they just go with kata, which isn't really a move that you would use in a fight. And so it's doing him a bunch of forms before throwing one toss and winning the fight. So it doesn't even feel very satisfying, because he didn't really beat Mike Barnes. He just won one more point than Mike Barnes, who had lost a bunch of points intentionally to make him suffer. So a very weird finale that aesthetically, superficially looks right, but doesn't have any of the meat that it requires to have a satisfying finale. Next up, The Kung Fu Kid, the remake starring Jaden Smith and Jackie Chan. And this has all the right elements. It copies all of the beats of the original and even some of the dialogue.
What's that?
Rule book.
You don't know the rules?
不要你打败他，要你打伤他。
But it doesn't have anything new to offer. It just kind of cranks up the slickness of the production and just makes everything bigger, but without being better. So the actual production of the final tournament looks like a televised event. The fights themselves look like these hyper choreographed fights from an action movie with spinning camera angles and everything, and flippy kicks from tweens. The action is brutal. As we get to the point in time where they try to take out Drew by injuring him, it involves a kid just repeatedly punching his leg. The equivalent of the crane kick here is a literal flippy kick thing from Jaden Smith, who's only been training for a few months. And as we move into the final moments, you have the entire evil team bow at Jackie Chan. All subtlety is removed. Everything is amped up to 11, and it kind of just sucks the humanity out of it. It's bigger, but none of it's better. None of it feels true and organic. It feels like a Hollywood production trying to outdo what was done already perfectly in the past. In fifth place, The Karate Kid Part 2. This finale tries to up the stakes. It puts it in an exotic location, and everything about it feels more dramatic.
Behind you!
Certainly, the whole movie has been building the rivalry between Daniel and Chosen. Thematically, it shows the differences between Sato and Chosen. But at the same time, I don't feel like this is the logical conclusion to the film, because the main storyline really is about mending the relationship between Sato and Mr. Miyagi, and that's already happened before we get to this final fight. But it's a Karate Kid movie, so of course you want to have our final fight, and it happens. Certain elements to it, putting Daniel in an actual fight, I do think is a good next step for his character.
It's not tournament. It's for real.
There's some moments that I think work nice, and the setting certainly makes it feel a lot more iconic. But whereas in the first movie, the final fight was a visualization of the internal struggle our characters had been going through the whole film, this is just a final fight with a bully that's kind of embarrassing himself. And then as we move into the final section where Daniel does kind of turn things around and win, the drum punch, the drum effect, is no crane kick, especially as a visualization. They just kind of have Ralph Macchio doing this as the way it's cut. So it looks weird in the movie. It's certainly not as cinematic as that crane kick and that shot in the movie where Johnny gets kicked in the face. And so just doesn't quite live up to the original, even though they've tried to up the stakes and put it in a nice setting. Then we have Cobra Kai Season 3. I think this finale works better thematically than it does in its actual execution. The general idea of all the tension of the first 3 seasons and the different factions leading to this final showdown has a lot of payoff to it, especially as you move into the end where Daniel and Johnny truly decide to team up and they realize Kreese really is the villain in this situation. Love all of that stuff. The specific execution of the fights in this one, I don't think are nearly as strong as they were in the season 2 finale. Right off the bat, the Cobra Kai kids are just too villainous. They literally break into Daniel's home, committing serious felonies in the process. Then it attempts to do a one-shot where the shot goes on for like 2 minutes straight. But since they're using so many actors and not stuntmen, I just don't know that there was the talent for the stunt work. And so you start to notice some of the weak spots inside the fight choreography. You see people in the background kind of doing fake gestures, pretending like they're fighting, but they're really not. And instead of the one shot making it more immersive, it draws your attention to the choreography and the fight itself, so it kind of pulls you out just a little bit. And I really feel like Hawk's transformation and redemption needed to play out sooner in the season. He needed to have that snap out of it sooner, because having him break into someone's home, start attacking people, and then in the middle of that change, I just feels very weird. So I love the concept of it. On the one hand, it is a very satisfying conclusion because of the way it progresses the actual meta story of the series. But the execution, especially rewatching it, frustrated me a good bit. Real quick before I give you my top 3, remember to share your ranking down below in the comment section. As I always say, my list isn't the right list, it's just my list, and I would love to see yours. Also know I've done a bunch of other Cobra Kai and Karate Kid rankings. I've ranked the movies, I've ranked the Cobra Kai seasons, I've ranked the Cobra Kai characters. Once this video's over, if you've liked it, check out that playlist right up there for more. In third place is Cobra Kai Season 1. This is an interesting one for me because it's the appropriate and logical conclusion to this season, but it's also very bittersweet. As you go into the tournament, you want to see Miguel and the Cobra Kai kids win the tournament, and that happens. But in their effort to win the external conflict, winning the tournament, they lose the internal struggle and become jerks in the process. And in particular, Hawk becomes a full-blown villain in what he does throughout the tournament. And so it creates this scenario where it's like, this makes sense with the journey that they've been on. They won, but I can't really celebrate with them. Likewise with Robbie, I'm not really rooting for Robbie to win. I have my issues with Robbie, but he's making a lot of good choices in the finale. And the big kind of satisfying moment in it, as you have this part where Johnny clearly realizes the mistakes of what he's done.
You don't have to fight dirty. Dirty? There's nothing dirty about winning, Sensei. You taught me that.
He starts to see the faults of Cobra Kai during the tournament by seeing it inflicted on his own son. There's something very powerful about that moment. So this is an interesting one to me because I think the writing is very smart. It's the right ending, but it's not as satisfying for the show in regards to like feeling like a big payoff. It's certainly not a feel-good finale, but it is the right finale. Our runner-up, Cobra Kai Season 2. 2 seasons worth of conflict and tension all explode in one gigantic school fight. Everyone has a rival, and we've seen 1 or 2 seasons of tension building between those two characters. We understand each of their motivation. We know why they're angry in this moment, why they are doing what they're doing, and everyone is out for blood. I think this school fight is a good example of the advantage of telling a story on television versus a movie, because there's so much time to give everyone a rivalry, to give everyone a reason to want to get involved in this particular fight. Also, this is probably the best fight in terms to just a fight in this entire show. Clearly, they spent a long time choreographing it as well as shooting it, and it's a very long sequence with a lot of people involved. As it moves into its finale, the final moments of it, it reverses what happened in the season 1 finale, and you have Miguel have the moment where he wins the inner struggle. He chooses to learn the right lesson and make the right choice and ends up losing the fight because of it. And Robbie chooses to act against everything he has learned. He acts out of rage and anger, and it has dire consequences. And I think that's the other thing, especially because we know where all this leads in season 3. This fight has consequences. Legal, physical, in terms of the school, in terms of the community. It actually matters, all the choices that were made in this sequence. So it's a really nice way to close out a season. But in first place, and it's not even close for me, the original Karate Kid. This is essentially a perfect ending to this film. Every theme and plot point of the entire movie is paid off in such a satisfying way. Right off the bat, Daniel hasn't been training all that long, but the philosophy under which he's been trained would be perfect to counter the philosophy of Cobra Kai.
Strike first, strike hard! No mercy, sir! I can't hear you! you!
All Daniel knows is the basics of defense, but he's a master of them. So as all these Cobra Kai guys come at him highly aggressive with more advanced moves, he just does basics and wins through truly better karate and a better technique for winning. As we move into the final fight, Johnny's trying to be the good student, but as Kreese is telling him to sweep the leg,
Sweep the leg.
you can see on Johnny's face, like, he knows this is wrong. Like, this isn't what he signed up for, and this isn't like satisfying to win by cheating. And you can see it on his face, the difference between Johnny and Kreese, all leading up to the iconic crane kick that's just the right amount of weird, but also in a way that creates this thing that everybody wants to replicate. Even as I've shown it to my kids who's 6 and 8, they see that finale and they start trying to replicate it because there's something about it that's just catchy. Daniel wins the fight, but more importantly, he wins the respect of the people around him. Johnny has a change of heart and he runs over to the judge, grabs the trophy, and he runs over to Daniel to make sure he gives it to him. Tells him that he's all right because Johnny isn't just a psycho like Kreese, who is a bit of a psycho, and all of it makes for it's such a satisfying conclusion because the fight itself is the visualization of the inner struggle of these characters for making the end so satisfying and one of the great underdog stories of all time, one of the great sports movie conclusions of all time, and of course, one of the great conclusions to a story about a boy finding a new father figure in an unlikely place. So a perfect finale to a fantastic film. If you enjoyed this video, I got more Karate Kid and Cobra Kai content right over there. I got the movies ranked, the seasons ranked, the characters ranked. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much.